After Darth Vader's death aboard the second Death Star in the Battle of Endor, most of the galaxy was happy to be rid of the murderous Sith Lord, and many thought Vader's legacy ended there, in the fiery funnel pyre that Luke Skywalker constructed, which signified the end of the Empire's brutal rule. But you might be surprised that Vader's name lived on in the form of another, who was known as Lady Vader. Who exactly was Lady Vader, and how did she earn her name? Join us as we answer these questions and more in today's underrated moment. Whenever you hear the title Lady Vader, you might immediately assume some type of lord or noble, and you'd be right to think that. The title is actually one that used to be a single group of semi-human aliens known as the Noghri. The Noghri, for their part, are extremely complex, and share a lot in common with the two most famous species of the Materanor sector, Trandoshans and Wookiees. Like those two warring sentients, the Noghri society was built around an ironclad code of honor. While Transdoshans might not seem like the most ethical beings relative to their own culture, they were actually extremely moral. Their religion, which centered around a god known as the Scorekeeper, mandated that they kill as many powerful beings as possible in order to collect points in the afterlife. If their prey ever defeated them, however, the Transdoshans were forced to live in shame until they claimed revenge. The Wookiees, for their part, were just as honor-bound, although unlike the Transdoshans, the Wookiees' ethic mirrored those of the Greater Republic far more. Wookiee society was strictly separated into different classes, often based on age. Younger Wookiees needed to treat their elders with respect, and in order to prevent younger, more powerful Wookiees from imposing their will on society, full-on, clawed combat was prohibited. In many instances, Wookiees who unsheathed their razor-sharp claws and tried to maim their opponents were outcast from society, like the albino Wookiee who once dueled Chewbacca. But we only mention these two other species in order to provide some much-needed context to the Noghri, because these particular humanoids are far more mysterious. The Noghri hailed from the world of HEIR, and much like many other slightly primitive societies, they lived peacefully in small agrarian towns and settlements. But the horrors of the Clone Wars eventually stained the world of HEIR, and the natural beauty of their planet was exposed to dangerous chemicals that ruined much of the vegetation. Eventually, when Darth Vader discovered HEIR and the Noghri who lived there in 19 BBY, he pledged to save the planet from the pollution that was slowly destroying it. Of course, Vader and Palpatine didn't offer their assistance freely. They were glad to use the Noghri's own complex ethics against them and earn the species' servitude in exchange for their help. So, at this point, nearly 2 decades before the Battle of Yavin, when Luke would destroy the first Death Star in his famed trench run, Vader became a lord of the Noghri, and the former Jedi Knight couldn't be happier. He quickly discovered that the short, stout, gray-skinned creatures were naturally gifted in stealth and combat. In fact, they managed to completely overwhelm Vader's own personal escort of Special Forces stormtroopers. The Dark Lord was so impressed that he envisioned the Noghri as the special assassins for the new galactic empire, and that's exactly the purpose that they served. In the aftermath of Vader's discovery of their planet of HEIR, years later following Darth Vader's death, the Noghri continued to serve the Empire, but a chance encounter from one of the Sith Lord's descendants changed their allegiance forever. When a young Noghri came across Leia, he was immediately shocked to discover that Darth Vader and Leia share the same scent. And like many creatures with heightened senses, like the Nexu of Cholgana, the Noghri discovered that Leia was Vader's heir and in fact her people's rightful lord. After the revelation and the fall of Grand Admiral Thrawn, the Noghri committed themselves to Leia, calling her by her father's name Lady Vader. In the years that followed, they faithfully served her and the Solo children. At one point, during Leia's failed mission to the primitive world of Nam Chorios, the Noghri were among the last Republic soldiers to fall to the plague that had been unleashed aboard Leia's diplomatic vessel, fighting to stay alive long enough to protect their commander.